So in our previous episode, I shared with you some of the tool selections that LaunchWare has made when building front-end React applications. And I thought it would be neat for us in a few subsequent episodes to actually put those tools to work and open an editor and show you how all of these tools really work together to create really cohesive and easy to maintain applications. So if you remember, to recap, we made the following selections for our front end stack. We're using Git, PnPm, TypeScript, Vite, NX for our monorepo management. We're going to use native state and context for managing state within our React application. Later, we'll integrate React hook form and Zod to manage form state. But today, we'll configure Tailwind and BEM in addition to all of our sort of TypeScript and React tooling. And thankfully, with NX, it's quite easy to get started with a monorepo workspace. So normally, if you are just starting out and using NX, you could use a generator like so. And what it would do is provide you with a series of prompts to help you make some of your tooling selections. But we've already made those tooling selections, so I can go ahead and copy and paste a command here that indicates all of the selections that we've made. So we're going to use Vite for our bundler for all of our transpilation and packaging. We're going to use a React monorepo preset for this particular application because we're not going to have a backend as part of this monorepo. We're going to use a package-based workspace type. If time permits, we'll write some playwright tests, which will fire up the browser and click around and make sure that the app is working the way that we expect. We're going to use PnPm for package management. We're going to skip any NX Cloud CI configurations. We're not going to need that for this particular project. And we're going to use vanilla CSS for making all this work. And let's name this a little more specifically, and we're going to call it an Insulin calculator client. Okay, so when I execute this, it's going to ask me where I want to put this. So I'm going to create an insulin calculator root. And now NX is going to do its thing, and it's going to basically provide us with TypeScript settings, ESLint configurations, prettier configurations, and it's going to initialize our React code base for us. So it's going to do a lot of that initial heavy lifting for us, which is another reason to love NX. Okay, so now if I cd into my directory, let's pull it up in VS Code and kind of take a poke around. You can see here that it's generated a reasonable default for our ESLint configuration. We've got a nice prettier setup with prettier RC here. And you'll notice that we've got a fairly large package.json here in the root. The nice thing with NX is it recommends and defaults to centralizing all of your dependencies here in the project root. And then when you go to deploy, it will actually build the dependency graph that's consistent with the dependencies that are required exclusively for the application that you're deploying. So don't worry about this this package.json getting too bloated. When you go to deploy an application with NX, it will cull this list to only the dependencies that your application requires. So really cool there. And then if we go into our app root here in apps Insulin calculator client, you'll see that we have everything that we need to initialize an application. So if we go ahead and we fire this up, using the nx serve command, you'll see we get a really reasonable start to our React application. Now, there is some boilerplate that NX puts in the app when you generate it. We can go ahead and remove that and get started with our own configuration here. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this NX welcome component. We're not going to use CSS modules for this particular project. So we just need to remove that reference to the NX welcome component. And we can kind of just put in a hello from Insulin calculator. So notice in our browser, we had that old NX sort of boilerplate, but when I made that change, it automatically refreshed. I didn't have to spam this refresh button like so many web developers are accustomed to. And that's thanks to Vite's hot module replacement. So if I change hello to hi and I hit save, you'll see it automatically update here in the browser, which is a huge, huge convenience. Great, so we're ready to do our React development. But if we want to make it look pretty, we've got to add Tailwind into the mix. So let's get that configured before we part ways for the day. One thing I also like to do is specify a tool versions file here in the root. And we use a tool called ASDF for all of our runtime management. So if you have multiple versions of Node on your system, multiple versions of Ruby or Python, you can use an agnostic tool like ASDF to manage all of those disparate versions. So let's go ahead and specify the long-term service version of our long-term support version of Node.js. And we'll also specify the latest version of PNPM. So with that in place, we can now run ASDF install, and you'll see we get an installation of all those runtimes. Now, if I didn't have them installed on my machine, ASDF would manage downloading and installing those runtimes so that I don't have to deal with it, which is really nice. Okay, so now that we've got all of that set up, now we can jump into the Tailwind configuration. And what's nice is NX gives us a nice walkthrough of how to get that done. So we can take these dependencies and we're gonna add them into our root. And then we can move into our React root and we can run pnpx tailwind init-p. And what that's going to do is generate our tailwind config.js file and our post.css config.js file. We've got a little bit more work to do on those particular files. So the first thing is with Tailwind, we've got to tell Tailwind where the configuration file resides. So we just go actually into the post.css file and we add that configuration value in here. Got to add our reference to join. And then we've got a similar amount of work to do on our post-CSS, our Tailwind configuration. We've got to tell Tailwind where to load all of our files, right? So we can do that by taking this join and plugging that into our content configuration here in our Tailwind config. And you're going to see a little red squiggly here that's telling us we've got to load join in. And we do that. So good shape there. All right, so now we go into our app.tsx and we want to load in our styles from style.css. So what we're going to do here is bring in all of our Tailwind base component and utility libraries, and that should enable us to start working with Tailwind. So let's restart our server. Just make sure that everything is working as it should. And you'll notice now our headline isn't as big and it's using a new font. And that indicates to me that Tailwind is properly configured and ready to go. So now if we go into our H1 here, we can use Tailwind decorators to decorate and style our H1 component. And you'll see here, based on these class names, Tailwind is applying different styles to that particular H1. We're going to take an alternative approach to our CSS using BEM syntax, but I just wanted to demonstrate that Tailwind is in fact working and that we're ready to rock. So let's go ahead and commit our work. Remove boilerplate and perform Tailwind setup. And we are ready to start building our app. So if you're enjoying this and you want to see the app kind of come to life, definitely like and subscribe to what we're doing here from a video standpoint, and we'll be sure to notify you when the next episode goes live. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.